Pressler. I was going to say Valerie, but that's not. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry.
Thank you. Any of the commissioners have declarations of conflict?
I do not.
No? Okay. I will look for approval of the agenda order. I heard that we needed to remove item number 3 tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, item number 3, the water district is coming out with standards and they've asked us just to hold off on our landscape ordinance until they have their updated standards. So there doesn't need to be a public hearing or discussion because it's going to be totally different when it comes back based on what their standards are.
All right. So we'll remove, or I'll look for a motion to strike F3.
I make a motion that we remove business item number 3, the discussion on ordinance 2023.XX until next.
Until it comes back.
Yeah, just
Whenever.
indefinitely.
Until it's back on our
Indefinitely.
Okay.
Indefinitely.
Okay, got a motion. I'll take a second. Motion second, take a vote, and we will go from this side tonight.
Aye.
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 Okay, public forum. Actually, got to review the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look through those minutes?
Yes.
I know we're backed up a few months. Wayne's like, nope.
Well, April was already approved, so that one should be in
Yeah,
there.
April. So I did see one thing in there that I was kind of questioning, and I actually went back to watch the YouTube video, and the YouTube video ended before the end of the meeting. So I was like, you didn't get to see that. This was on, it was actually March 8th, business item F5. And maybe you can just clarify this for me. The home occupancy licensing ordinance that we brought forth, it seemed to me like we approved those
Yeah,
changes.
that got moved to council. It's in front of council.
Exactly. And in the minutes, it actually says deny and then 5-1 for denial. So I don't know. Maybe I saw that wrong. I would say look at that. I don't know. Maybe I
Double check that.
missed that.
The-
That March meeting, we took like a break.
Yes.
Second meeting of our
And
15 minutes.
And I looked for that on YouTube, but I couldn't find it. So I kind of suspected that might have happened. But yeah, that was the
Verify
only
that.
issue that I had.
That definitely was recommended positively to council.
That's
It's
what
in
I-
front of them right now.
If you can verify that, then I would.
Can we make a motion just to correct that one item?
We could do that. If I may be wrong, I would like to hear what she has to say about that before we.
It does say tonight. I'll go back and check.
Okay. All right. So we can, I didn't see anything else. Did any other commissioners have any issues? Okay. I look for a approval of the minutes from let's see, we've got 4 months there.
3.
2, 3, 4 months.
April was already approved.
Oh yeah, we did do that.
So I would make a motion that we approve February, March, and May of 2023's minutes with the correction in March,
March 8th,
March
item
8th.
F5.
item F5 to change that to be approval.
Okay, we got a motion. I'll take a
the
second.
motion.
Motion a second. Take a vote.
Aye.
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 I wasn't here in May, so
I-
I
You can
for the other
vote for
2
the
months,
ones.
but
Yeah,
I don't know about me.
that'll work.
Honestly, I can't expect you to remember that far back, so I won't hold on any of it
Abstain.
too long.
Okay. Okay. That'll move us to the public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to get up and speak on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. I will now open up the public forum. So if you'd like to speak about anything, you step up.
I'm here about the conditional permit.
She's-
Okay, then we'll wait for that. We'll get to a public hearing on that when I hear from you. Okay, so nobody's here for the public forum, so I will move to reports. I don't have anything to report other than there are 4 of us. Wayne, are you going to be here next in August or July? July for July's meeting?
July 13th.
Well, the only reason I ask is because 4 of us are going to be gone, 5 of us. And I need to know if you're going to be there or if we need to reschedule the date or I think actually, Jenny, are you
July 13th.
July 13th?
July 12th.
July
Third-
12th.
well, July 13th is the date. Oh, it's 12th, you're right.
Okay.
I can't be here at either the 12th, but if, or do you have to have a certain number?
We have to have 3. And so Gary's going to be here on, this is what we have to decide is when we're going to reschedule that because we're not going to have a quorum for that day.
Wayne won't, I won't, you won't, Andrea won't.
Okay, so let's
Well,
pick,
That's 3 though, because if he's here, she's here, and she's here, that's 3.
but that's the, oh, you will be here. You're going to be here the 10th.
We can do it the 12th.
Okay. So
You'll be here the 12th?
if you 3 will be here, that's a quorum. We would have to have a chair
Who's
who would step up to do
Gary
chair.
and
Jenny.
Gary, Jenny, and Wayne.
Wayne? You said you'd be
I will
here?
not be here on the
I thought you said.
I-
Wayne.
Oh,
He's not
I'm
gonna be
sorry.
here. That's only Tuesday.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. So we'll have to reschedule that date. So the date that you're back is the 10th. You're back when?
The 16th.
The 16th. Can you do it the 10th? No?
What day is it?
Monday.
So what we were trying to do is maybe schedule it before the council meeting, so we had something there for them to
He
work
said he
on.
gets back like the 10th.
He's gonna be back the 10th.
So we have to do the 11th.
Jenny, are you good for the
I
10th?
can't do it on the 11th.
So we have 1, 2, and Wayne will be here on the 10th as well.
No, he's not. He doesn't get back till late the 10th.
Yeah, it'll be late that night.
Oh, all
And
right.
you can't go the 11th.
What about the 13th, that Thursday?
13th will be after council meeting.
No, it's not.
Oh, it will, it's
That's,
not?
that's
No, it
our
won't.
week.
Okay. Do you guys have any problem with the 13th? Staff,
I'm looking at mine. I'm good.
everything good there?
But you have 3? That's what I'm going.
I won't be here.
Yeah.
We're out here on the 12th.
Oh, you leave the 12th.
All right.
What about maybe the 17th? I will be back.
Okay, 1. You're not.
I couldn't do it 17th or 18th. 19th, good.
19th is council meeting.
I'm gone the 15th through the 22nd. So but you can hold it without me. You've got plenty.
Yeah. I just-
Oh, I don't know. I'm not.
Part of the quorum.
Okay. I don't know how to make this more efficient. So what date should we try to go for? Give me that date again. What was it? The 20th?
Well, that's after council. Is there any, what about the 14th on that Friday?
Won't be here.
Wayne, 14th? Okay. the
It has to be the next.
So let's
week.
go the next week, the Monday.
I can do Monday.
Monday, Jenny?
I could do Monday.
17th?
Yeah.
Monday the 17th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so that's a quorum. So who will be here for Monday, the 17th? We've got 1, 2, 3,
And wait.
and 4. Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Who's chair, I
That's-
can make 17th. Who's the chair pro tem?
That's Valerie, but she won't be here.
Oh, you won't be there.
I'll be here the 17th.
Oh,
Yeah, on the 17th.
perfect.
So, yeah. so
All
you
right,
got-
we're good.
You got a quorum and a chair. Great.
Perfect.
The summer.
The 17th,
17th,
Monday.
6 o'clock.
I just asked that it be a short meeting, okay, since I'm conducting.
Hey, you know what's the beauty of conducting? You can make it a short.
Yeah. I don't feel like I have that option. I feel like it's. Okay. All right. And then Afton, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, and I didn't know if you wanted to go through the commissioners and then I could go just 5 after everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Any other commissioners have comments or reports? Okay. Darren, have you got anything you'd like to report? Okay, Riker.
Nothing outside the agenda items.
And just a couple of things. We wanted to just give an update on kind of some things around the city that people are going to start seeing. And I know they're hitting Facebook and people are seeing it. So we just wanted to we did an update in council about the development that's happening. So obviously that's important for you guys too. Just if we're starting at the north end, I'm just going to kind of give the same report I gave at council. But if you start at the north end up here at Anderson Junction, we are working on a city water line project to bring culinary water to the residents in Anderson Junction. They've been on wells and we're working on bringing culinary water. We're working with the water district on that project. So that's kind of the construction that you see on the north side up there. We have an RV park going in that has come through here. That's under construction. So that's a lot of the big heavy equipment that you see just right there. And then the reservoir is going in right next to that. The water district is working on that pipeline. That reservoir, they still say that it's scheduled to have water in it in 2025. So the dam is under the review, Division of Dam Safety. And then moving down from that, obviously we have the Parkway. So we have William Charles working on the north end of the Parkway. And then we have JP Excavating that has started on the south end of the Parkway. That started on June 5th. That should be wrapped up hopefully in December. They have until the first week of February, but they're really trying to push hard for a December date. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that as it goes. And then we are working with UDOT on, we have the funding for the Choya Creek turn lanes. And so we're working on those down here at the south end. So you're just going to see a lot of construction between now and the end of the year of some of those projects. So that was one thing we wanted to do, is update you on development. The other thing that we wanted to do, I talked to the mayor today. I know I received an email from Andrea just talking about like the information in your packets and the flow of information and the timeliness of it and things like that. And the first thing we wanted to do is just obviously recognize publicly that you guys are all volunteers, right? It's not a paid position. We understand that this is taking time away from your normal lives, your normal jobs, and we are super appreciative of that. We do feel like we're trying to get the information to you as timely as possible. One of the things, so Daisy was doing the election and other things, and obviously the council packets. And so there's a lot going on in the city. So she is trying to get those to you as timely as possible. I know we had talked about trying to get information to you even like the Thursday before, like with the draft agenda or things like that. So she's trying to crank out the information as quickly as she gets it and as things are approved to be put in front of you. So sometimes even when we have applications or things, they're still working on getting the final of those. So we do understand that you do have to take time out of your personal life to review that. So we are committed to trying to get you information in even a more timely manner. As much as we can. And so, we don't want this to take any more time away from your families or anything or your jobs than it needs to. So we do appreciate your patience. We know that can be frustrating, but at the same time, we do feel like that as staff, we're trying to get that to you as timely as possible. And so that we just kind of wanted to acknowledge that publicly, that we understand you are all volunteers and that this is taking time away from your family. So we are obviously committed to working on that. So we just wanted to talk about that openly. So that's really all that I have. So
I'm just going to ask, I noticed they were posted online, like, because they were public notices for the couple of items we have today. And I go read those, which helps give a start. But when they're doing that, if they could at least drop them in the packets and we can start reviewing the
same thing as the public notice.
Or as they develop and grow, it just helps so there's less last minute. Things can get added, I know, but if that's a shorter list, it makes it less.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And we do appreciate the work you guys do as well. So thank you.
It's a process, that's for sure.
Yeah. So tonight is not so hard. We can look through this fairly quickly, but some of those nights have been really difficult. So
Yeah, we've got some heavy weeks coming up. So
which ones are those, and let me know what day to take.
those are going to be Val's problem. No, just kidding.
Good job. Welcome to.
So
Okay, so we're done with the reports. Anybody have anything else to report? Okay. All right, we'll move us to business items. First business item, discussion on conditional use permit application submitted by Dustin Black, located at 932 South Mulberry Drive, Tokerville, Utah, tax ID T-AHP-A-121. Current zoning is single-family residential. R112. Staff, have you got anything for us?
Yes, so this conditional use permit application that's been submitted is specifically for a conditional use on the maximum height of a secondary structure. In the code, we allow for up to 18 feet on a permitted secondary structure. And we, in our code, it also references that from 18 to 35 feet, that height is allowed per conditional use permit. So that has been, that application is for that. I would just like to bring up one part on that application in your package. It references the home occupation permit. That's left over from previous paper applications. And it's not applicable to this conditional use permit application. It is solely for the secondary structure.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions for staff?
The only thing I kind of noticed as I went through, I noticed some of our codes put limits on square footages. This, in R112, and all the residential, there is no limit on the accessory structures. I didn't know if that was ever intentional, but it's like 1,000 feet square feet on accessory buildings on other.
Like R120, that kind of thing? You're
All the
saying?
residential don't, none of the residentials
Okay.
do. It's more like the multi-use
Yeah, I didn't think I
ones,
saw
but I
that.
was kind of surprised that there wasn't a limit on an accessory square footage. Anyway, nothing we can address here. It doesn't stop this application, but I was concerned about that.
Okay.
Yes, my only question was, is the intent to eventually have a B&B because there's one right next door? So,
No.
okay. No, 'cause we didn't want you to go to all this thinking that you could do that and then have that problem.
Any other questions?
I think it's only 2 feet higher because it's 18 is the
It's
limit. It's
22
1
foot
inch.
1 inch, I think.
Right.
it is.
If you
Yeah,
pull up,
it's 22 feet.
22, so it's 4'1". But Riker, we had a discussion about you driving in the area and kind of looking at heights and things like that. What did you see in that?
So in that area, there are other primary structures that appear to be of similar heights. And in the further south, as you go down that road, there are secondary structures that appear to
Okay.
be of similar.
And is that the same subdivision? Is that part of the same subdivision? Okay.
Keep going.
And then the other question I have is, did we have any response from the noticed?
For the neighbors.
Yeah, from the
It's right there.
neighbors. So we had to notify people 300 feet with, so did we get any response? Okay, all right. We didn't get anything back. That's what I'm asking. Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Were the neighbors informed?
Yes.
Yeah, they were, and there were no responses, and we do have a public hearing, so they had something tonight they could bring it in.
I don't know if you guys were familiar with that area street, but it drops off significantly in their backyards. You know, they're on quite a hill, so it shouldn't impact
Yeah, it's kind of like
the neighbors.
thinking about theater seating. You're
Right.
gonna be above it if you're behind anyways.
and if you,
They're putting that in the back. I don't see an elevation for this versus their house.
It was on the,
so if you look at the site plan, you'll see the finished floor elevation for both structures, the existing and the proposed.
What are they?
Yeah, I'm not, one you just had.
yeah,
up.
Dave's the one you just had pulled up.
I don't know exactly what they were.
I think there were 44. Yeah, right there.
45.
You've got,
So right there,
and 22.
that's a
That's, she's got
footprint.
this, that's the footprint. yeah,
That's the
square
footprint.
footage.
Elevation.
It was the
I
elevations.
think
There's an elevator.
it's
You see the
different.
two elevations. They look like a little circle with a hazard thing
Yeah, I
there.
see that. I
You gotta
can't-
zoom into those. Finished floor elevation on the one I can't see.
Yes, what's that
It
number,
looks like
Dave?
both of them say 32.
3344 on existing house, and we are at
3244 on the existing. and 3244, so they're exact same elevation. Our floor, finished floor will be the same.
Okay.
So this will actually be shorter than the existing home.
Okay,
The existing home,
all right.
from the street view, looks like it's about 35 or 32 feet.
Okay, anybody have any more questions?
You
All
go
right.
back to that picture that shows that second story.
Yep.
I guess I have a hard time with this because I don't know why we have to get a conditional use permit to make a non-conforming, to break your building code.
That's
Well,
it's in the R1.
It's in
Yeah,
the,
it's
it's in the,
allowed.
it's in the ordinance.
In the
That's why
zone.
they require it. We require it because it's in the ordinance.
So why have a set limit on 18 feet for your home?
Well, we don't allow you to get an increased height on a home, but on an accessory dwelling or accessory structure, you can, because our accessory structures, it has a maximum of 18 feet, but it allows you to go higher than 18 up to 35, which is the max height for a house by conditional use. Because I think the idea being is we don't want to have some structure on a lot where there's a dwelling and some structure that is just super tall or, morphs over the size of the dwelling and things like that. And so it needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis through the conditional use permit process.
So it's not breaking the code. The code actually allows
Yeah, it
for 18 to
contemplates-
34 based on, does it fit the area? Is it going to block views? Is it on a hill? All of those kind of things.
And I think those are the things that you should be looking at is, okay, is it in line with what other structures look like? What is the grade of this area? How is it going to affect sight lines for neighbors and things like that? Should be looked at on a conditional
I wouldn't
use.
want to be a neighbor and have them looking down in my backyard the whole time because they're putting this in their backyard. You're just staring right down in there. So
Actually,
you're
the property,
obstructing- You're obstructing view from your neighbors.
the property here is on the uphill side, so this is actually going to be cutting into the hill a little bit to create this. So
Well,
the
you're,
actual-
you're
the
up
other-
higher in your backyard, which allows you to see over any privacy fence at all in your backyard.
They are anyway.
So the property to the
He
adjacent
is right about that.
is much higher.
That just means that the building was closer, they can see into the backyard.
The neighbors are higher than this.
It's on Mulberry.
I've been there, I've looked at all the other houses, I don't see anything over maybe 18 feet. All the way down that street on that same side. This is 925 south.
I can show you 4 or 5 that are probably just, some have RV garages.
And is this an accessory building for living or is this just an office space or what?
They can be a casita.
Yeah, it can be a casita.
We allow casitas to be built.
Can it be 7 feet away from the property line or does it have to be 10? It's just all
Five.
different.
It can be 5.
Is it
5 on the
maybe-
sides.
See how they're exceeding the minimum or the maximum height for an accessory dwelling? You can put, it comes into the condition, that's why Keith was saying, if it's overly high or it's whatever, you could make it so that it holds the same setback as the primary dwelling. You can do, there's lots of different things that you can be conditional, but they have to be reasonable conditions. They can't be like something just off the wall. So,
Okay, any other questions before I open up to a public hearing? No? Okay. Oh,
So the neighbor he was talking about, they look
Excuse me?
down.
Can I, yeah, I'm going to open it up right now.
Oh,
And then, and I don't,
He just has to.
I
he
don't
just has
mean
one
to
now.
make you feel weird about it.
He's pretty menacing. I wouldn't
You're,
cross
yeah,
him.
I guessed his wife.
yeah, and I'm going to open this to public hearing. You can tell us everything you
Okay,
want.
Okay.
So I will now open this up to public hearing. You have 3 minutes to discuss anything that you have. State your name and your address, please.
It's Heather Black, 932 South Mulberry Drive, Cokerville. So our neighbor that she was talking about, they're way above us. We have zero privacy looking down, and even with our structure, they're still looking down on us. Our neighbor on the other side, that they got the notice when we talked to, they are feet away, and they're planning on doing a wall too, but that house above us, it's to the left if you're looking at us, our house, way higher than in our addition would be, yeah.
Oh, good job.
That's because they chose to build it higher.
The
Yeah.
pad, building pad's higher,
The
definitely.
building's not out of code.
My thing is going 22 feet there, I don't think it would impede on anybody's view. Seems to me like that kind
It's
of
not
works
higher
right
than
there.
their primary
It's-
residence, right? Still?
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
Does that, the height go off, where the house is, or?
It goes from, I believe, grade to the peak of
These
your
were
roof.
It's in our definitions.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
I believe it says grade. I know I had to deal with this a couple of
The
times.
vertical distance above the reference, okay, it's based off of the height of the highest adjoining sidewalk or ground surface within 5 feet, horizontal distance of the exterior of the main building. That's where you get your grade measurement, and everything works off the same grade on the entire lot. Back of sidewalk, 5 feet, wherever the closest structure is, whatever that height is, that's the grade that you measure from any place else. So if your backyard tails off a little bit, and we look at the height there. So
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I will look to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second?
A motion and a second, take a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay. You guys have any other questions, thoughts, discussion?
My only other question is, the person that lives behind you, I would assume that a letter got sent to them, because they would be the only ones that would be feeling like they were getting looked down.
So it's 300 feet around or within
Yeah.
300 feet.
Right, so they got.
can you go to the packet and show the red?
We're all properly notified and no feedback.
I'm sorry, Jenny, what?
Val,
It's just the one.
Val, if you can see that up there, it's in your packet. This is how we know, the county has come up, their GIS department, with this method so that it draws from the outer perimeter of that rectangular lot a certain distance around. So all those parcels got notice of this. Yes.
I was just wondering if, because that would be the only person that would probably
Mhm.
have.
Yeah.
A problem.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, no other comments. I would look for a motion.
I would motion that we approve business item F1.
Got a motion? I'll take a second.
Second.
Correct the motion. It's not an approval. It's a
A
recommendation.
recommendation. Approval.
And do we want to make it, Riker, was there any additional staff recommendations? I don't think there was. It was just a grant. You recommend that it grants. Okay. I was going to say. maybe
Oh, I
you
do.
wanna- you wanna amend it,
I do
make it
actually
subject
want to
staff
add one more
recommendation.
thing to that. And I don't know if this needs to or not,
We have
but
something-
in the application, I don't know if it's a signed application that they signed or what, or how that goes. But at the bottom, it says the purpose. And then it also describes what Riker brought up about it being a business or a home occupation. So I don't know if we need to correct that in this right now and just say,
They're just here, it's not applicable, so they're just here for the conditional use. So
okay,
I
didn't know
think,
if that was
so,
part of
yeah,
permitting, and if we recommended approval, we're recommending both. So
if you're recommending approval, so you could say that you want to recommend,
the
it
approval on the
say
business height,
Mhm.
not
Yep.
business.
on the conditional use.
I don't know if that needed to be said.
All right, let me try again.
Go ahead.
I'd like to recommend business item F1.
For approval.
Well, you said I can't say
No,
approve.
you can say.
You just
Recommend
have to recommend it. You just say that you want,
We recommend business item F1 for approval.
there you go.
To
This
city
is,
council.
Mhm.
I second that.
I got it.
You got this.
Okay.
First and a second, I will take a vote.
Aye.
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 Okay,
It'll be on the city council agenda next meeting.
that will move us to business item 2. Discussion on ordinance 2023 multiple use 20 MU20 zone to modify permitted uses. Staff?
So this agenda item is coming back to the previous planning commission meeting with the changes that were requested. Those changes include stating that this ordinance is amending Article A of Chapter 11 instead of just Chapter 11. Adding MU Twain after multiple use in the title. Updating the section references to reflect correctly. Replacing the permitted conditional uses with an allowed use table. And in those, there were a few of those uses that changed. The first of those is changing what used to be private park or recreational grounds or facilities, including RV resorts, or not including RV resorts, to read day use private park or recreational facilities. And that's listed as a conditional use. RV resorts was added as not allowed. Campgrounds was added as not allowed. Changing residential facility for persons with a disability to a conditional use with standards. Adding a residential facility for elderly persons as a conditional use. And then also adding other uses similar to the above and judged to be in harmony with the character and intent of the zoning district as a conditional use. Additionally, the minimum setbacks were restated as front 25 feet side, 10 feet rear, 10 feet street.
Any questions for staff? No?
What's changed since the last time we looked at this?
I'm sorry?
What's changed since?
We created a use table. We didn't have a
Yeah.
use table before, and we pulled
Wayne,
out.
if you'll remember, it came before you as a discussion item, and you made some suggestions, and so then Riker went back, implemented those, gave them to me, I looked at it, and I just put it in ordinance format. So now it's here for a public hearing and for you guys to look to make sure that staff made the changes that you guys wanted, and so that you can make a recommendation.
Well, one thing I just thought of as a question after reading things from the first business item is there's nothing in here that has any physical restrictions for any of the accessory buildings like we have in other zones. Does that matter?
It actually does, well, I don't know about accessory buildings, actually.
Like in all the other zones, we call out both, so,
Accessory building uses, it calls that we can have them.
but it doesn't have any physical restrictions.
Well, it'd have to still abide by setback requirements unless there was some special setbacks for accessory buildings. So it'd still need to comply with the 25 feet front and the 10 and 10 side and rear. But it does allow in that zone 35 feet high. It doesn't limit the height like other zones do. But if you think about it,
Which is fine.
one of the
as long as
reasons
it's
why
in
you
the
have a
area.
lower accessory structure height limitation is because we're doing that. We do that in our residential zones.
Right.
This is a
Open
one
area.
dwelling per 20 acre
Right.
type setting. So
I just wouldn't want them to make like 15 casitas.
go on. Yeah.
Wayne, do you see the
I
red
guess I
line
don't really
on your, you can find the red line there and it can kind of show you what we,
I
What
don't
we
have my
changed.
old, but I feel
That
like this
second
line
one.
here is different.
which one is it?
This other similar to the above and judged to be in harmony with the character and intent of the zoning district. That's a wide open,
They all have that.
That's a pretty standard.
that's not pretty standard to me. That's
Well, no.
wide open because somebody would come in and ask for
Wayne,
a resort.
I didn't-
That's similar.
I didn't-
Similar.
I didn't mean that to be that. I'm saying we have that very same clause in
In
a
all
bunch
of
of our
them,
zones.
and that's just,
I don't
Well,
know.
it-
I'm not going to say all of them because I'd have to look at all of them,
yeah,
but
that's true.
a bunch of them.
Well, I was gonna say the character intent of the zoning district goes back to the purpose, so does whatever they're asking for align with the purpose, so. That's actually that's why we changed all this to begin with, so.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think that's not, it wasn't in the last one, was it?
Let's go to the, I actually have.
I'll pull up the existing one and tell you what the current MU20
It just
says.
seems it kind of allows almost everything that's above and maybe more. Judge to be judged who wants to judge it. In further dates and further counsel.
Well,
and further
that
planning
would be
commissions.
planning commission that would judge it. So if there was something that wasn't on that table that may be perfectly fitting in that same zone, that would give the planning commission the ability to recommend approval or denial on that use based on, whatever criteria. We don't even know what it might be, right? But if it fits in that area, then it would give us the opportunity to either approve or deny or recommend approval or denial.
Yeah, it just depends on that.
Because we can't,
In the
we
future.
yeah, and we can't list every use that might fit into that. So that's kind of what that statement is making right there. To me, I think it's, just because we can't list everything, that's why it's there. But it doesn't give them approval. It's conditional.
Well, maybe it doesn't give them approval on this condition,
Right.
but that's not to say for the next one might read something in the general plan. Is what we read.
It doesn't have that language in the current version. But Daisy, can you pull up the commercial districts and do neighborhood commercial Article A, 1012A, and scroll down into the conditional uses? It's just the first one that I jumped on to. So go down in the conditional uses and zoom in just a little bit. That last other uses similar to permitted uses above and adjudged to be in harmony with the character and intent of the zone. I think staff has used the same clause, that it's kind of that catch-all, but I can understand Wayne is our strict constructionist interpreter, and he doesn't like anything that's gray, and I can appreciate that.
Well, because I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna ask for something, and you're gonna let me have it on a conditional permit that maybe we didn't want. I mean, this is all based off, public input and general plan and things like that, and I think it leaves it open.
It's that fine line between having 100 listed subsets of uses or having a clause like this and saying,
Was this in the last one I read?
It wasn't in the last
It wasn't? It's
MU20,
not.
but it was in it's in a lot of the,
This change got made with,
was it part of
That's
the
what I'm
red line?
struggling
I'm
with.
just curious. Did it have it on the red line?
In the previous meeting?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was
So
either.
that's why it's before you now, it's free to discuss.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we haven't made any recommendation. This is just coming back to you after initial discussion.
It's in 1010, so under the residential.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in a lot of our ordinances.
Any other discussion on this before I open up a public hearing? Okay, I will now open this business item F2 for public hearing. Public input is requested. Nobody?
Jake, you got any comment?
We'll close that. And now we need to figure out what we're going to do with it. Take a motion if we're ready for a motion.
Well, I feel like they came back with everything they asked for last time. That's missing, so I would make a recommendation that we approve business item F2.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I approve. I second it.
I've got a motion and a second. Any need for further discussion? Okay, take a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That takes us to the discussion item, which is discussion on ordinance. We don't have one actually. I guess there is one in our packet, but we don't currently have. Amending Chapter 11, Title 10 of Tocqueville City Code, establishing a resort recreation zone. This is a discussion item, so
Arthur, you want to give them a preview?
Yeah, so this is before you, a request has been made, with the planning commission of the adoption of the resort zone. In conversing with Sean, the planning commission has looked at a recreation resort overlay zone in the past, that was added to your package, but it was, later.
yeah, and that one wasn't what we were discussing back in, so it's a different,
2022.
Yeah.
The last time that was on the agenda.
Yeah.
The draft that was included in your packets is not an overlay zone, it's just a recreation resort zone. And then as we were preparing this, we did come across another zone that exists in our code that has similar uses, and I don't know if you'd like to.
Well, I'll tell you this, Riker gave me the draft, and again, I look at it and I put it just into the format form that you see there with all the whereases and added. And I look to where in our ordinance this is to be slotted, and I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of a zone is this? Is this a commercial zone? Is it an industrial zone? Is it a residential zone? Kind of. It's a mixed use. And so I thought, you notice that under our MU20, it has already been listed as MU20 zone was an Article A. So it contemplated that there might be under mixed uses a couple different types of zones. So I figured that we would create this, I would slot it in as Article B under the mixed use zones. But I look at this and I don't know if this would necessarily be as needed if you were to look at under our commercial zones. If you guys have access to our ordinances on your computers, I would draw your attention to Chapter 12. And if you will go down to Article C under Chapter 12, and I hate when I open up and can't get back to where I need to be. Yep, it's the planned or PC, planned commercial zone. You see this fairly common in other cities. You'll oftentimes hear it referred to as PUDC or planned unit development commercial. You oftentimes will see planned unit development residential. You can look, this is already on our books. We don't have, as far as I can see, I don't think that anyone has ever applied to be rezoned to it. I don't know that in our general plan or in our current general plan in the future development map, whether there's any areas that have been identified as a good place for this zone. But it exists on our books.
Could you, Heath, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but would you tell me that article or ordinance again?
It's 10, 12, so it's Chapter 12, Article C. So it's the commercial districts, which is Chapter 12. And then if you look under Article A is neighborhood commercial, B is highway commercial, and C is planned commercial zone. And, you know, I tell you guys to look at this. It's very interesting, the purpose. But when I read what has been requested and is here, I see a lot of similarities. And I don't know that we need to have two. Even look at the purpose. It says the planned commercial zone is to provide areas where a combination of destination-oriented businesses, retail, commercial, and entertainment and related uses may be established, maintained, and protected to serve both residents and non-residents of the city. Typical uses include large-scale master plan commercial centers and outlying commercial pads, big box stores, and offices. Afton, you told me, I have never looked at the history of this, but this has been on a book since 08.
When Riker was researching this, so we, like he said, we had a request to put some sort of resort zone in front of you. When Riker was researching it, he came across this planned commercial zone. And when we started looking into it and how it came about, in 2008, City Council adopted this as part of the land use management code. And then it came back, and then in 2012, it came back and they adopted it as an ordinance. And then in 2021, they amended this to include quasi and public uses. And they did that throughout all of our ordinances, pretty much, not all, but a lot of them. So anyway, and so at this point, the request for the resort, when we started looking down, Daisy, so obviously, so back in 2008 is when they came up with the purpose for this zone, saying to make it a destination zone within Tokerville. That was surprising to us, honestly, as staff when we saw it. And I think the reason why staff wasn't aware of this sooner was because nobody has ever applied to be in this zone. And so now that we do have people interested in this zone, it's before you to say, hey, we've had a request for this resort, but also we already have this all of these uses that they're requesting in this resort are included in here. If you look at these and some of these, I mean, banks, business equipment, car washes, child daycare, churches, clubs. If you scroll down, I mean, it even lists golf courses, hotels, hospitals, laundromats. I mean, the list is extensive. And then even when you look at it, I mean, it says car dealerships, right? Vehicle sales and services. I mean, it lists auditoriums, bus terminals, all sorts of uses that this already exists in our code. And when you scroll down days to the acreage right here, anybody who has 5 acres can apply for this. So this is why it's before you to decide if you think this is sufficient to, if we need to establish some sort of resort zone, or but that's kind of why it's
I'd
here.
like to make a suggestion to the planning commission. We've got an ordinance on the books, and normally when I see planned unit development chapters in different cities' ordinances, when you go, a lot of cities like to force landowners to come through the PUD process because it requires them. Our ordinance says nothing about the approval process and how detailed their plans have to be. But usually a planned unit development process, you got to get down in the weeds and show them at the very beginning before they approve it. You guys have always, I've heard the comment from Planning Commission, which is a valid comment. Well, what's your final use going to be? How on zone change requests? Because we don't know. Well, you're going to know in a planned unit, but I think we definitely need to task staff with amending this Article C of our Chapter 12, the planned commercial, to add a section about approval processes and what must be submitted in it. We need to have site plan with size of buildings, heights. We need to have I want to render, and we need a rendering. We need to see what it's going to look like. We need to even get down to what probably landscaping is going to be for it. And
The previous recreational zone, we actually did go through all those processes. So I totally agree.
okay, so
with
maybe
that.
take,
Well, I don't, we can do whatever, but I really do
yeah, look
agree
at,
with
you
that
could, you
idea.
could look at Washington cities, look at
Yeah,
Hurricanes, planned unit commercial zones, and that'll give you a really good starting point on what the process, because when I know a lot of developers, cities like to push it on them because they know upfront what they're getting when they're approving the zone change. Developers don't like it because they have to go through a lot of planning and a lot of expense upfront, and it really then puts them in a box because they have a set of plans. And your big box anchor store has to sit right here in the middle of this location, and it can't be bigger than this, and all the different things. And you're showing me where all your parking stalls are at the zone change stage. And so cities like that because they know what they're getting. Instead of saying, okay, here's your zone change to highway commercial. We won't know what's coming until you come with an actual site
I
plan being
absolutely
approved.
agree. So I think
So-
that would definitely be a recommendation.
Would you want the requirements in the ordinance, or would you want them by policy, like a checklist, like a table of that, in case like the commercial design standards change, in case they're, I'm just thinking of if you want it in the
Yeah,
ordinance.
that's a great,
You want
I do want some of the process. Think about like our MPDO, how it's got a pretty detailed at each of the stages. I don't know that it needs to be as detailed. That's the most complex ordinance
Right.
I've seen in my 20 years of doing this, but
Just
there-
thinking for Riker, for his
yeah,
direction.
Riker, there needs to be a process and it needs to reference our commercial design
Okay.
standard. You know what I mean? But there needs to be a submittal and it needs to show X, and it has to comply with
Yeah.
this section, which is
Yeah,
our commercial
absolutely.
design standards and stuff like that. Like St. George City, you have to come in and identify your uses. I had a situation, to give you a simple example. If you remember right there by the big cut as you come into across north of where the mall sits right now, that whole area over there that used to be that old golf course, it is a planned commercial zone. And they put, in getting the approval, they had to identify the building pads, the streets, the parking areas, and they didn't identify the actual size of each building, but they gave them a building footprint. But what the city required them to do was to put a list of approved uses. And what happened was I had a client who owned 2 of those lots, and the Humane Society came in to get a approval for a conditional use to create a new big building for the Humane Society, a great big huge dog kennel. And my clients were super concerned about how that would diminish the value of their lots and everything around it. We got looking at the approved uses, and dog kennels or animal kennels was not one of them. And our argument to the Planning Commission, the City Council, and the city attorney agreed and said, we can't approve something that's not one of on your own list. Well, not yours. You bought the lot from the developer who agreed to a list of certain uses.
Yeah,
And it wasn't there.
absolutely. That's a great idea.
So now if you notice, kind of over there by Costco, back behind the Cal Ranch store, I saw the new sign where the new
New
Humane Society building is going to be. So-
Well, that's a lot to think about because this is a whole different direction than I think any of us.
So to
would
me, this
plan
is only
on
discussion, but
going
my suggestion is maybe we don't look and spend a lot of time on
to recreational.
this resort zone and just cleaning up and adding some process to this existing plan.
Absolutely, I do agree with that.
Does
think
the
that sounds
existing
great.
plan allow for a resort?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, all of these things that are listed on here are allowed, which does include hotels, motels.
It's funny, I'm
Just
looking
read
at
through that list. It's the, just for,
That's what I told her.
it's agricultural sales and
And
service,
permitted uses.
animal hospital, bank, business equipment rental,
We don't want
sales
you
and
parking right
service,
in
a
front.
car wash, child daycare, a church or place of worship, a club or service organization, convalescent care facility, convenience stores, cultural services, golf courses, hospitals, hotels, laundromats, post offices, public or quasi-public uses for essential public services, public utility uses, reception centers, restaurants, fast food establishments, shopping centers, vehicle sales and service, so like a car dealership. Conditional uses would be auditoriums, bus terminals, commercial kennels, liquor stores, motels, pawn shops, recreational vehicle parks, rehab treatment facilities, residential facility for persons with disabilities. That one will require an additional permit, but tattoo parlors, taverns, wholesale and warehousing. So that's why he's saying maybe we want to start with this ordinance
Yeah,
and go through some of the uses and things like that, since this is already on our books and something that people could apply for. And so just kind of
My favorite part is
see.
a hotel is a permitted use, a motel is a
motel.
condition. We don't really like you parking your car out in front of your room.
My question was, does it include an RV resort, a resort destination?
Well, it says
No,
it says
I don't see
recreational.
that
vehi-
in there anywhere. You said, yeah, I said
well,
no.
it says recreational vehicle park.
That We
is
have
what
a
I'm-
recreational vehicle park up there, but
Mhm.
not a resort. You're-
Yeah.
You're wanting to do a resort,
All of our
to find a
recreational.
resort zone for resort, and you're planning, your general plan does not want Tocqueville to be a resort town. I just don't understand why we're trying to push resort. It's-
No, the RV, the
No, this
current
is a-
RV
this is a
one.
resort, not an RV.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, I think our current, correct me if I'm wrong, Riker and Darren, but our current RV ordinance is for RV resorts,
that is correct.
right?
I don't
So
know.
we have a separate ordinance for RV
We
resorts
actually don't have
already.
an RV park ordinance.
This is you're asking for a resort zone. You're asking us to do a
Well-
resort zone, create a zone for resort.
No, it was
That's what this
requested
is.
of the
It was
city.
requested of the city, and we're saying that maybe we don't want to do the resort
No, we
zone.
don't
Maybe
want it
we want to
because
go with this instead
I
and
think
and
as
use
the planning
this.
commission's gonna follow the general plan.
Hey,
Yeah,
well,
so what we're
Heard it.
saying
I've
is,
heard it. It's contradicting. It's crossing this way like this. It's like you said, it's a gray area, but it's totally crossing the line.
Wayne,
we're saying that,
this ordinance right here is already on our books.
That one is, yeah.
And they can
Tune it
already,
up,
and
fix it.
all the things that you see here, they can already do, right? So what they're saying is instead of just saying, we approve it, but we have no idea what they're doing. We're actually saying for this ordinance that we create a process where you have to call out everything that you're doing before it gets approved. And that's all we're talking about here. And we're not talking about.
You have to pull
creating
back the
another
curtains and show the
We're not
whole
talking about
project.
a recreational resort zone.
So
We're
this is
talking
going
about-
away.
That's not part of.
that's what we're asking is
That's
if
not
you
part of
guys,
what we're doing
this is
here.
what we're asking is for the commission to
What is this?
not pursue, what we're asking is for the commission to not pursue the RV resort zone at this time and address this ordinance that already exists in the city with all of these uses first.
This is a discussion. So this means they gave us something to discuss. Now they're telling us, don't look at this, let's look at this, and then let's figure out how we're gonna fix this so we don't end up with stuff we don't want.
But, well, we don't need two of them, because if you look at what's in the one from tonight, they're all in here anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think if we do this,
Ain't in there.
if,
No,
if
well,
we,
it's
if we
not.
refine this
We don't care
ordinance
about that. It's
better,
gone.
it's
We don't
going to
discuss it.
make it a harder zone to rezone to. But if they really want a certain use, they're gonna have to show us everything up front. So we feel pretty darn comfortable what it's gonna look like, what it's gonna be, before we approve the zone change.
So you can ride it that way? you can say?
Absolutely. And one of the neat things is a zone change is a legislative function. When the council approves that, they're acting legislatively, and the discretion they get to deny something is phenomenal. That landowner can challenge it, and they're going to probably lose 7 out of 7 days a week and maybe twice on Sunday on that. There is such a high discretion when they're approving and or denying zone changes, because they're acting legislatively. They're making laws for their local area.
Well, thank you for finding that,
Yeah.
because I'm frankly sick of making new ordinances every time.
I
We don't need.
agree with that. It wasn't something that I
Ordinance,
was even
ordinance,
thinking
ordinance,
of.
ordinances.
So.
All we do is make ordinances.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation to you is definitely what council said here. I think it should be very similar to our, like an MPDO process, and it describes everything and what we're doing and how we're doing it, so.
And while we're talking about that too, yeah, I do want to give some credit to Riker and Daisy for the research that they did. Daisy spent a lot of time in the storage unit trying to find the paper copies.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you so
So thanks, Daisy. So she might not have uploaded the other by Thursday, but she was in the storage unit for a long time. So anyway, thanks, Daisy.
Just
Thanks,
one of the
Riker.
thoughts on that. The resort zone that I did give you, it does have a lot of that same kind of language that we're talking about. It's got a lot of the processes and approvals and pre-approvals and all that. If you just look at that and if there's anything to pull out of it.
So the direction for Riker, he'll pull from that ordinance that
If-
you had
if-
started if something's valuable and give it to Heath. But then the direction from Heath is we're going to just reference in the code, the commercial design standards and start the conversation about the process of approval for this zone. Yeah. Before anybody could
Stuff like that. And
Please
then we
look
have
at
to
your
say-
general plan while you're thinking about that, would you?
So.
And implement?
Yep.
Because I'm not gonna.
What's
let
your
that
thought
die.
on having it in
I'm
design
gonna support
standards
that
and
general
also the
plan.
ordinance? Is that, do you have an issue
Well,
with
I
that?
think the submittal requirements
I'm
and the
sticking with it.
process of approval
Huh?
should be in the ordinance. But when we say you need to submit this, this, and this, it needs to be in compliance
Good
with
here.
your plans that you submit to us have to comply with our commercial design standards.
That way, when you change one thing, it applies
Yeah,
everywhere.
because our commercial design standards are probably going to be kind of one of those fluctuating changes, because frankly, we don't have very little commercial, and we're starting to learn what we like and don't like in as far as commercial goes. And we'll know more what we want Tokerville to be and look like 5 years from now than we do right now. And so I can envision our commercial design standards changing a little bit. So if you have this process that identifies, you submit these plans, it has to have this, it's got to have a landscape plan, a parking plan, a building site plan, all those things in it. And you've got to have elevations showing the buildings and what they're going to look like and those types of things. And the features, the architectural features and the design features have to comply with, boom, the commercial design standards.
Okay.
And that's what's going to be fluctuating.
Yep.
I agree with that. So. I'd have to look
Not
at-
construction drawing, but pretty darn close. They're going to spend some.
Trying to
Yeah.
think of the design standards, how strict are those now? And I you should know that, but
I think that's the trade-off.
That's how people.
I think
formulate their-
I think that's the trade-off. They're offering this ordinance is offering landowners some pretty
Open.
open uses, things that we not really seen a lot of. Think about an auditorium.
no, we
Have
don't
we
have
seen
any
an
of that.
auditorium
Right.
in or like an amphitheater or something?
Burn.
Well, yeah, and my point is, if you're going to get this
Reception
type
center.
of use, you better spend the money up front and show us that what it looks like. We want to know, is it going to be made out of stone? Is it going to be cast in place concrete? What is this thing going to be and look like? And is it going to have adequate parking and lighting and those types of things?
and currently that we don't have any of that. So that's
Yeah,
great.
currently we deal with that way past the zone change process, and now we're making it part of the zone change.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
Okay, great recommendations. We're good there. Anybody have anything else to discuss on that?
If you would have finished 2 minutes earlier, it would have been less than an hour.
Oh, dang it. What did I do? I'm talking too much.
Are you calling for a motion to adjourn?
I call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second?
I gotta figure out what's the heat on that bonding for.
Close this meeting at 7:01.
Wayne doesn't want to go home.
Record time.